Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. NCAA college football week number 3. All right, week 2. Not horrible, not great. 13-8 straight up picks, 9-12 against the spread, 10-11 on the over/under. Year to date brings me to 36-17 win-loss, 24-29 against the spread, 29-24 on the over/under. 55.97%. My ultimate goal, hey, I'm happy as can be, 66%. Anything above 60, I'll be ecstatic. Last week wasn't a good week. Hopefully we'll bounce back this week. We have 21 games this week, a variety of different teams, different conferences, so we'll see what we can do. First game out of the ACC Atlantic, we have the 2-0 Florida State Seminoles versus the 1-1 Louisville Cardinals. Florida State is favored by 2. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 54.5. Out of the Mountain West Mountain, we have Air Force Falcons 2-0 versus the 2-1 Wyoming Cowboys. Air Force is favored by 17. I got the Air Force Falcons winning. I got the Cowboys covering the 17. I'm taking over on the 48.5. Out of the Big 12, we got a Big 12 versus Big 10 matchup. The 2-0 Oklahoma Sooners versus the 1-2 new head coach Nebraska Cornhuskers. They have given up 93 points in 3 games on defense. Oklahoma scored 78 points in 2 games. The Sooners are favored by 11.5. I got them winning, covering. The over-under is 65. You know what? Big 12s like to throw the ball. I'm going over on the 65 on that one. Next up, we have the Big 10 versus the ACC. The 1-1 Purdue Boilermakers versus the 2-0 Syracuse Orange. Purdue is favored by 1. I also seen a bunch of pick'ems on this game. I am picking Purdue to win, covering the 1, under on the 58.5. Conference USA versus the Big 10. 2-0 Western Kentucky Hilltoppers versus the 2-0 Indiana Hoosiers. The Hoosiers are favored by 6.5. I got them winning, covering, and under on the 60. The MAC versus the Sunbelt 0-2 Buffalo Bulls versus the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, who are 2-0 on the season. Coastal Carolina is favored by 14. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 59. The Sunbelt versus the ACC, the Old Dominion Monarchs 1-1 versus the 1-1 Virginia Cavaliers. Cavaliers are favored by 10. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 54. The Pac-12 versus the Independent, we have the 2-0 California Bears versus, I'm going to say this right, the 0-2 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Okay, lost to Ohio State. We're good with that. A loss to Marshall? California 2-0. Notre Dame is favored by 10.5. They're 0-2. They just got beat by Marshall. California's a pretty decent team. And Notre Dame's favored by 10.5. I'm giving the 10.5 to California. I got Notre Dame covering, and I'm taking over on the 41. We have another independent versus Pac-12. We have the BYU Cougars, who are 2-0, versus the 1-1 Oregon Ducks. The Ducks are favored by 3.5 at home. I got them winning, covering, and over on the 57.5. Big 10 versus SEC. This is going to be a good game. That week 3 could have playoff status on the line. Penn State 2-0. The Auburn Tigers 2-0. We know that the committee will put a Big 10 team in. We do know they'll put multiple SEC teams in. We know Auburn faces Alabama later in the year. If Auburn can win here, and their only loss is to Alabama, they could get in. Same way with Penn State. If they can win the Big 10, or even get a Big 10 title game with 1 loss, they win here, say their only loss is the Big 10 title game to Michigan or whoever, they could get in. We've seen Ohio State get in and not even play in the title game. So playoff implications on the line in week number 3. Penn State is favored by 3. They're in Auburn. I'm giving the 3 points to the Auburn Tigers. I'm picking the Auburn Tigers to win, cover the 3. The over-under is 47. I'm going over on that. Next up, we have the SEC versus the MAC. We have the 2-1 Vanderbilt Commodores versus the 1-1 North Illinois Huskies. The Huskies are favored by 2.5. Given the 2.5 to Vandy, I get Vandy winning, covering and under on the 60. Big Ten versus American, the 2-0 Kansas Jayhawks versus the 1-1 Houston Cougars. Cougars are favored by 10 at home. The Jayhawks have scored 111 points in 2 games. The Cougars have given up more points than they've scored in 2 games. I'm giving the 10 points to Kansas. I got the Jayhawks winning, covering and over on the 62.5. We have another playoff implication matchup. We have out of the ACC, 2-0 Mississippi State Bulldogs, 1-1 Auburn Tigers. Or LSU Tigers, excuse me, the LSU Tigers. They're in the same division as Alabama. We know more than likely Alabama is going to have 1 loss, if any at all. No more, at the very most, 2 losses. If you want to make the playoffs, everything's got to go through Alabama. You got to stay with them. LSU 1-1, Mississippi State Bulldogs 2-0. They both scored 88 points in 2 games. The Tigers have given up 41. The Bulldogs have given up 40. The actual line in this game is -2 by Mississippi State. Here's where I disagree with that. It's a 5 p.m. start time in Baton Rouge. On Saturday night games in Tiger Stadium at LSU. The Tigers don't lose very often. You got to think, the end of the first half will be sunset. I'm giving the 2 points to the LSU Tigers in Death Valley. LSU all the way here. LSU got them covering the 2 and over on the 55. Next up, we have the Big 12 versus the ACC. Texas Tech Red Raiders 2-0 versus the NC State Wolfpack, also 2-0. NC State favored by 10.5. I got them winning, covering and over on the 55.5. Big 10 versus Big 12. Love matchups like this. Or Pac-12, excuse me. Again, teams that could be in the playoff hunt when the committee gets there. Pac-12, you almost have to be undefeated Pac-12 champion to even get sniffed in the playoffs. Michigan State 2-0 in the Big 10, going up against the 2-0 Washington Cougars. If Washington can go undefeated and win the Pac-12, they may have a shot at making the playoffs because they've done it before. Washington is favored by 3.5 on this. Big 10, Pac-12. I'm going with the home team here. Washington Cougars favored by 3.5. I got them winning, covering and over on the 57.5. Battle of the 1-1s, the ACC and the MAC. Pittsburgh Panthers, Western Michigan Broncos. Panthers favored by 10. I got them winning, covering and over on the 53. The American versus Big 10, 2 undefeated teams. NSMU Mustangs and the Maryland Terrapins, both 2-0. Terrapins are favored by 3.5. I got them winning, covering it under on the 69.5. Conference USA versus Mountain West. The UTEP Miners 1-2 versus the 1-1 New Mexico Lobos. UTEP favored by 3. I got them winning, covering and over on the 39.5. ACC versus SEC. Again, 2 teams that could be looking for playoffs. 2-0 Miami Hurricanes versus the 1-1 Texas A&M Aggies. Texas A&M is favored by 5.5. I got them winning, covering and over on the 48.5. The 1-1 San Diego State Aztecs out of the Mountain West versus the Pac-12's Utah Youth, who are 1-1. Utah is favored by 21. I got Utah winning. The Aztecs covering the 21 and over on the 50. Last but not least, Mountain West versus Pac-12. The 1-1 Fresno State Bulldogs versus the 2-0 USC Trojans. Trojans are favored by 12.5. I got them winning, covering and under on the 71.5. That's a big number not to go under on. But that is week 3 of the NCAA college football season. Stay tuned to Robert Sports Show for week 2 NFL. If you're a NASCAR fan, we got previews of all 3 races at Bristol. As always, thanks for watching the Robert Sports Show. And don't just have a great day, have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader in sports channel content.